the tankability, or rather the beefiness, Wukong and Evelyn doesn't really stand a chance when it comes to dealing with Braum as being beefy. So they have to get their game down fast enough. So that is pretty much why Ziggs is there, Kai'Sa is there, just to shred the opponents down as soon as possible, with a decent amount of CCs going on about, coming in from Wukong's Cyclone, as well as whatever that Janna is able to bring out. Most of the time, I would say that it is mostly from the first skill of Janna. I can't start it. Monsoon? No, sorry, Monsoon is the ultimate. But yeah, the first skill of Janna, basically. While Impunity side, they do seem like they have a pretty good lineup when it comes to a team-oriented battle from front to back. It should be able to wipe SQC down pretty nicely. The only problem is probably SQC's kiting potential.
I would say SQC's kiting potential isn't too bad, because if you see the bans that we have overall, the 4 bans, right, it feels like Sequence picked up picks that are kind of the lower tier of what they would have. Like, if they didn't have the Alistar or the Orianna, they immediately pick some sort of improvise to that, where you have the Janna who can kind of do the same thing as an Alistar. You got yourself a knock-up, you got yourself a ability to peel for your teammate. You are slightly squishy, but you can still do those same things. And on the Orianna side, she has a lot of displacement with her Shockwave and a good amount of, mobility with her Dissonance. So what we're seeing here is kind of the same thing with the Ziggs, with his satchels, gonna be able to provide some displacement so that there's no real fast ganks that be coming out from these assassins, and there's always the threat of the poke that you have with the bombs that he has, and as well as being a Ziggs, he can also help with being able to destroy these turrets more quickly. And I think that Sequence have built a good composition for them, considering that they kind of neutered themselves as well by having these particular bans taken away by their own, or by their opponent.
At this moment of time, I believe
that just means that there's 4 picks in the 5 of Sequence that is exceedingly squishy. So Abstract, your point is very valid. It's very, very crucial for Sequence to just play around that.
Yo, Evelyn's not jungling.
Oh!
Wukong will be the jungler, the only one that has gotten himself... wait, they are 3-manning in mid. There is a Howling Gale tossed right out. They're going straight for vertical jungling, running into Impunity's jungle while taking everything out for themselves. Impunity themselves is just doing the exact same thing. Whoa. Okay, so we are looking at a pretty interesting start coming in from the side of Sequence and Impunity. They just kind of swapped the jungles around, whereby Sequence, they goes for the opponent's one, Impunity goes for the opponent. Not exactly sure what are they trying to look out for, but that kind of means that we should be expecting a little bit of a lane swap, since they are working more of that vertical jungling style action thing going on.
There's going to be a 3 versus 3 here into the mid. Got to be careful already. I do see the Braum almost taken down to flash in from fake AD, and the commitment is going to be real. Not done just yet, but there's the double knockup. Janna is proving its worth, but he overstepped his boundaries. The turret went for the fadeaway, and Impunity bring it back with the double. That should have been Sequence just backing away, but they got a bit too greedy. They dipped themselves, their hands in the honey jar too deep, and they got bit by Winnie the Pooh.
It does seem like it was a 1-4-2 trade in favor of Impunity, but when it comes to economy, it's not too much that we should be looking at for now. There's still quite some time to work with. Swirl dealing a massive amount of damage with the 5-point strike, and in comes Jim and JW, but unfortunately, the Howling Gale just did not connect onto this Akali. Down right in the bottom lane, everyone else from Impunity is just mashing whatever that they have onto this Ziggs, and off he goes, rocketeering himself out of the Dragon lane. So Impunity has gotten themselves with a total of 2-kill advantage, and they would definitely want to extend this lead as much as possible. So they should be pushing more advances in the bottom side, especially since Corki does not have any help from Janna.
This is where I need to also kind of figure out, or we need to figure out what just happened there. One of the things that I did kind of like there from Sequence's play is, first and foremost, that laning Evelyn does allow the Wukong to kind of aggressively take the jungle here, and because of his 3rd skill, I believe giving him a bonus attack speed, it allows him to quickly clear the jungle and have the better threat of the Cyclone compared to the Evelyn, who just will gank and maybe die because of the beefier front lines of Impunity. So I do like how Sequence was able to read through this, but now comes in the tricky part, wherein they're going as a 3-man loop, and they're leaving Cyrez up to his own devices, but I do like this gank coming in from the Sequence.
Oh, as everyone else coming from Sequence just going to be jumping right on top of Impunity. The Cyclone did not really just work out as much, as Raph is probably the only person that flew right up. Fake AD. He tried to go in with the Killer Instinct, but unfortunately he's right in the heart of Impunity, with all 4 people staring right down into his soul as he just sat there, cowering, because he just has too little health to work with. That is a little bit of a problem from the side of Sequence. They were a little bit too proactive in that previous fight. They didn't quite know when to back off. Whenever they find themselves in a fight, they just be like, heck it, let's go, instead of thinking of something that is more strategic.
There's no form of initiation for Sequence here. You might argue that it's the Wukong, which is true, but you can see the difficulty of Wukong, of Jim here, to being able to connect his Cyclone and Impunity's ability to just retaliate with the flag and drag from the Jarvan. They went into the Coliseum, to the arena of his ultimate, and they can't really reposition and get out of there. So it was basically Impunity getting them into a tight-knit close-quarter combat where AoE Corki is king. Kai'Sa, she was dealing some good damage, but you saw how much peel, how much stun, how much ability of delaying Impunity was, so that Scarlet could not get really taken down. And now, in just a slap of a second, a slap of a face, 5 minutes in, we're 5 kills for Impunity, and they're starting to stack some lead in terms of their gold work.
In 4 minutes in, Impunity has picked themselves up with a Mountain Drake, so slightly more beefiness to their lineup, and I think that that is going to be a pretty good one for themselves. I mean, you know, we talked about, you know, the champion lineup. Sequence have a less beefy lineup, while Impunity, they are more beefy. They can deal with the frontline actions from Sequence, but we're just going to hold that thought a little bit. A hookshot is just going to be getting a really good initiation coming from Ares with the hashtag ultimatum, jumping right down on fake AD, but unfortunately, look at the damage. Nothing is putting down the Sequence. What exactly is happening? At this point of time, Raph, all alone against the side of Sequence. He gets himself out of there, but unfortunately, the Braum still goes down. He was not able to kind of get himself and skittle himself away from all of the members from Sequence, as Swirl jumps right back in and receives yet another kill to himself. And Corki as well. My oh my. What exactly is happening? Impunity is shredding Sequence one after another in very different kind of matchups. It's not Wumba Combo Unga Bunga thing going on about. Is that I take this, and then I single you out, I kill you, I kill that. Oh, you are here, I'll kill you too then, kind of thing.
There's a certain tempo in Impunity, as well as finesse in their team fight, that is just so satisfying to watch. They knew that at that point, when the fight was going in, and even though it seems like it's Sequence, they still had the numbers, and they could have survived as long as possible. Sequence can only delay, can only heal a little bit with the Monsoon of the Janna, but even then, that was the point where, I believe, was it? Akali wasn't even on that fight. Swirl wasn't even on that fight, and when Swirl joined it, he was just basically there to police everything. And by police, I mean, you know, in policing the movies, they're too late, too little, too late to go into the party, and when it's over, they're just able to pick up the scraps. And speaking of picking up scraps, it's Sequence again, kind of nibbling at the heels of Impunity, losing all of these big objectives as Impunity is so on point. They got the turret, they got the kills, they got the dragon, and now they're just setting themselves up for such a great mid-game play.
Sequence is not looking good in the early stages. The Cataclysm lands right on top of Janna. He tries to go for the Monsoon and pushes everyone out, but unfortunately, he's not going to buy him enough time to hold himself down while the rest of his team deal with the back lines. Impunity doing exactly as I was thinking of. Is really more of the front to back kind of strategy. They want to peel everyone else from the front, then to the middle, then to the back. So whoever stands in front is very likely going to be deleted by Impunity first. So Janna has to be really careful with his positioning. In fact, not just Janna. Kai'Sa has to be very careful with positioning. True, yes, he does have killer instinct. He can kind of reposition herself every now and then. But, you know, the CCs has to be there. And CCs has to be there, that means either Cyclone or perhaps even the Howling Gale has to land.
Might have to. They just need to know when to go for these POs. But the thing about Monsoon is it doesn't really counter the Cataclysm. They are the Jarvan Arena. It just pushes them to the side. You get pushed to the side, it doesn't do anything. But maybe, just maybe, when the Jarvan comes in, we are kind of seeing this sequence is more playing the reactive plays than they are going for initiate, and that's never really what you want to do, especially when Impunity is in the driver's seat. They just are able to dictate everything, and waiting a couple more minutes, they'll be rewarded with this Infernal Drake, which you have said is one of the best Drakes to probably get in terms of if you want to get as much damage as possible to eke out that threat. Anyways, there is going to be a cha-cha, a dance of death for this big objective, and the fight ensues once again. The Cyclone will be had, but the beautiful Glacial Fissure just separates the members of Impunity left and right. And while that fight was happening, you saw where Swirled was. He basically 1v3 the backline of Sequence, and now they're falling, they're crumbling at the seams, and they're looking for their ace now, 9 minutes into the game.
That's it. 9 minutes in the game, that's it. We are looking at a 14K goal lead in favor of Impunity in 9 minutes, mind you. So that is pretty insane. Throughout all of that action, Impunity had Camille all the way to the top lane. I believe that Camille brought down the first tier turret at the top. Impunity didn't really have quite to work with since Camille was still slowly making her way down to the dragon lane, and thus it was in some sense a 5 versus 4. Yet Impunity managed to pull through. They had a complete destruction throughout the lineup of Sequence. Plus, they have also gotten themselves with the Infernal Drake. Nothing is going to stop Impunity right now. And Sequence will have to make full use of all the time that they have to find out what's Impunity's weakness in order to exploit them in the next game.
Impunity has a word in their name, which is puny, but that is just like the opposite of what they're doing right now. They're not a puny team. They're a massive team. They're amassing a lead that cannot be mounted upon by Sequence. 14,000 gold lead. Like you said, all the dragons going to the hands of Impunity, and the way that they're just going at this is surgical. Going for that 4-man initiate while Swirled is just in the wayside, waiting for an opportune moment to strike. And once again, they're just gonna have to fight for this Baron. The knockup ensues. There's not gonna be the steal on that Baron, and let's see what happens as Swirl just dives right in. But it seems like the gamble of Sequence is working out into their favor as they get 3 kills. But check where the other member of Impunity is. That's the Rift Herald as well, and Ares is dealing some substantial amount of damage in this inhibitor turret.
That's a free inhibitor turret for sure. Granted, Impunity's Ares is probably gonna go down. That is a single ram coming in from the side of the from the Rift, but it doesn't seem like it's gonna do quite much. We've got the hashtag Ultimatum being dropped down from Impunity. Not gonna do much, not gonna buy any time whatsoever, but well, might as well throw out your last-ditch effort. Well, Impunity did manage to get himself with a really nice turret down in the bottom lane, the inhibitor turret at that. So a lot more area is now exposed in favor of Impunity. They can now have a lot more map control throughout the board. It is going to force Team Sequence back behind and just kind of suffocate them from all XP and even gold. You just take a look at how Raph is positioning himself. Just resist the brush, waiting for the prime opportunity, jump right in with either Winter's Bite or perhaps the Glacial Fissure and just wipe everyone out. Because based on their goal lead, it should be no problems whatsoever for them to get an easy 4K or even 5K, even though there's only 3 members up here in middle.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Can we actually just see the items real quick here for both of our teams? I feel like Impunity should have about 3 items ahead of Sequence here. There you go. Oh yeah, let's look at that. This Kai'Sa is still struggling to get her second item out. I mean, you could argue Executioner's Calling is a second item, but you want something a bit more hard-hitting than that. And Yeah, that's just not going to be enough damage here for the rest of Sequence. Impunity definitely in the driver's seat, and they have everything up for them. And even look at the build of the Jarvan, lots of armor penetration. So his flag and drag doesn't only set things up, it also softened things up for Impunity to kind of make everybody in Sequence squishy, and so that everyone else from Impunity can just maul their opponent. And this is where you see the ultimates, or it's not the ultimate, sorry, but the items of Impunity kind of start to help each other.
Indeed. Is the items from Impunity is now starting to go kind of out of control. Looking at Corki as well as the jump of the fourth item is pretty darn scary. Glaive, we've got GA as well as Black Cleaver. You know, Jarvan can just jump right in, no problems. Doesn't even need the help of this Braum. I mean, yes, perhaps needs a little bit, but you know, the fact is there. Impunity is now beefy. They are not afraid of Sequence's damage because Kaisa, the best thing that he has, Blade of the Ruined King. So with 10k in Kaisa's name, there's really not much damage output that Team Sequence is able to dish out. They gotta have to focus a little bit more, or rather, focus more on landing the Super Mega Inferno Bomber coming in from Ziggs, just so that they can just kind of wipe out the damage from their backliners of Impunity, but easier said than done.
There's also the point where this Evelynn pick should have been more online earlier in this game. Because the thing about Evelynn is, the threat of Evelynn is that if you can't see Evelynn, you know, usually if you're a solo laner, you want to be seen around the map because you want to have that threat of split pushing. But when you have a solo laner Evelynn, the threat is different. She has to be invisible from the map so that she can always threaten, you know, being able to just go in and go ham and get that somebody. But speaking of going ham, it's gonna be Impunity. They're just setting things up, and look at Sequence. They didn't know what hit them, and they just back away immediately to their base. But after everything is said and done, after the dust is settled, 2 members remain. Make that 1. It's only in the hands of Jim, and already their nexus is exposed.
I just took a second to sneeze, and everyone's dead. I'm not even lying. I took a second to sneeze, everyone's dead, and give me another second, and the nexus is dead. Impunity is taking this game with literally the palm of their hands. They are not gonna give Team Sequence any time to breathe, no time to sneeze, no time for me to sneeze as well. But Impunity has played this game out fantastically. Early game, great mechanic control. They know how to kind of work their way around literally everything, and thus, I mean, I still